All right, so we are back and ready to dive back into a separate piece, and we're picking up with Chapter 6.
Okay.
And things at Devon School are about to get
Oh,
really interesting, I think.
absolutely.
Summer session's over,
Yeah.
those carefree days are fading, and it's back
Yeah.
to that rigid routine of the winter session.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I find so fascinating about this chapter is how Knowles uses the changing seasons to reflect like the internal shifts that are happening within Jean, you know? He even uses descriptions like new and energetic wind to signal this shift, like it's sweeping away that relaxed summer vibe.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, it's not just about the weather, right?
No, it's not just about the weather.
This shift also feels like the growing presence of World War II.
Yeah.
You know, even though it's happening overseas, it's casting a shadow over everything at Devon.
Precisely. And Jean seems to be grappling with these changes on multiple levels.
Right.
There's a sense of loss for those carefree summer days,
Yeah.
but also this recognition that things can't stay the same forever.
He even points out how hypocritical Devon is being like all
Well,
relaxed about the rules during the summer,
right.
but now it's back to strictness and tradition.
Exactly.
It's almost like they were in denial about the war during the summer, and now the reality is hitting them.
Absolutely. Devon, in a way, represents like a microcosm of American society at the time.
Yeah.
They're trying to cling to normalcy, but the war is inevitably forcing them to confront a new reality.
Okay, so we've got this backdrop of change and uncertainty.
Right.
And then we see how Gene's dealing with Finney's absence.
Yeah.
He's alone in the room they shared.
Yeah.
And across the hall is Brinker Hadley,
Oh, yeah.
this influential and powerful
Yeah.
student.
Mm-hmm.
It really emphasizes the lack of status Gene has without Finney.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Gene avoids Brinker's room, almost like he's holding on to the memory of his time with Finney.
Right.
Even their old roommate Leper has been moved to this remote room.
Right.
Everything just feels different.
You know, it's more than just the physical space.
Yeah.
Gene seems almost lost without Finney.
Yeah.
Do you think he's struggling with his own identity now that his best friend isn't around?
I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gene is trying to figure out who he is outside of his relationship with Finney, and it's clearly a difficult process. You know, he's trying to find his place in this new, more rigid world of Devon.
Yeah. And then we have this whole confrontation with Quackenbush.
Oh, yeah.
Gene is late for his new job as assistant crew manager.
Right.
Which, by the way...
It's like he needs to put Gene down to feel powerful himself.
Exactly. And then Gene punches him.
Oh, my God.
After Quackenbush calls him a mange son of a bitch.
It's such a...
This outburst is so unexpected.
Yes.
It really reveals a side of Gene that we haven't seen before.
I was shocked by that.
Yeah.
I mean, up until this point, Gene has mostly been introspective and observant.
Yeah.
But this fight shows us there's a lot of anger simmering beneath the surface.
And it makes you wonder where that anger is coming from.
Yeah.
Right? Is it directed at Quackenbush?
Right.
Or is it something deeper?
Yeah.
Perhaps some displaced guilt or even resentment towards Finney for being absent and leaving Gene to deal with all of this alone.
It's almost like Gene is battling all these forces, changing his world.
Yeah.
The war, his guilt, his fear of losing Finney. He's lashing out.
Yeah.
But at whom himself?
Right.
Finney, the world in general.
Yeah. And the fact that they fall into the Naguamset River during the fight adds another layer of symbolism.
All right. Remember, the Naguamset is described as the ugly river.
Yeah.
A stark contrast to the clean, idyllic Devon River. It represents that harsh reality that Gene is trying to avoid.
So we have this explosion of anger.
Yeah.
Then Gene's left feeling lost and confused.
Right.
He runs into Mr. Ludsbury,
Oh, yeah.
the stern housemaster who was absent all summer.
Yeah.
So this is like a return to the old order at Devon.
Uh-huh.
And it's almost funny. Here's Gene wrestling with this massive internal conflict.
Yeah.
And Ludsbury reprimands him for the gaming that happened in the dorm over the summer.
Yeah, those poker games.
Yeah.
It's such a stark contrast.
It's like, what?
Ludsbury is focused on these minor infractions while Gene is dealing with these huge, life-altering events.
Right.
But it's also a reminder of Gene's longing for Finney.
Yeah.
He remembers those poker games fondly, and it just emphasizes how much he misses his friend.
Yeah, it really is heartbreaking. And there's this irony in how Ludsbury is criticizing the boys for not maintaining order, while Gene is actually wishing he had truly taken advantage of that summer freedom.
Yeah.
But then, right when things seem their bleakest, we get this incredible plot twist.
Oh, yeah.
Ludsbury tells Gene about a long-distance call.
Right.
And at first, Gene thinks someone at home is sick.
Yeah. But it's Finney.
Oh my gosh, talk about a burst of sunshine.
Talk about a burst of sunshine cutting through all that gloom.
Right. Finney's voice is full of that contagious joy. Just assuming Gene saved his place in their room,
Right.
it speaks volumes about Finney's unwavering faith in their friendship.
Absolutely.
He's completely oblivious to the turmoil Gene's been going through.
Totally.
But here's where it gets even more complex. Finney's so focused on sports,
Yeah.
but Gene throws this curveball.
Yeah.
He tells Finney he's going out for crew management,
What?
which has nothing to do with actually playing sports.
Yeah.
And this is a pivotal moment in their relationship.
Yeah.
Gene is essentially making a decision to experience something he doesn't enjoy, something he finds dangerous and unsettling, all for the sake of his friend.
Right.
Is this a true act of friendship?
That's a great question.
Or is something else going on?
Yeah.
Is it guilt?
Yeah.
Or maybe even an attempt to control Finney in some way?
That's such a great question. Finney's optimism is infectious, but is it blinding him to what's really going on with Gene?
Right.
Is Gene being honest with him, or is he manipulating Finney's trust?
That's an interesting thought. It makes you wonder about the nature of their friendship.
Absolutely.
What motivates our actions in relationships?
Yeah.
Where do we draw the line between selflessness and self-preservation?
These are questions that we'll continue to explore as we delve deeper into the chapter. But for now, think about your own closest friendships.
Right.
Have you ever felt this pull between wanting to support a friend and wanting to forge your own path?
Yeah.
It's something to keep in mind as we continue our deep dive into a separate piece.
Exactly. It's interesting how Gene decides to go out for crew management. I mean, it's not like he's suddenly passionate about rowing. There's definitely something deeper at play here.
I think you're right. It's almost like Gene is taking on Finney's athletic pursuits, because Finney can't remember earlier in the book when they were practicing jumping out of the trees, it was supposed to be preparation for abandoning a torpedoed ship.
Oh, yeah.
It's like they were already rehearsing for war, even if subconsciously.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. It's like they were preparing to sacrifice themselves, and now Gene is literally taking on Finney's burden by going out for sports, even if it's just in a management role.
That idea of sacrifice really permeates the novel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's present in the backdrop of the war, in the boys' relationships with each other, even in their relationship with Devon itself.
It's like they're all sacrificing a part of themselves, their innocence, their youth, their carefree days, to this looming sense of duty and responsibility that the war represents. Yeah. But let's go back to Gene's decision. It seems like a noble gesture, but could there be a darker side to it?
That's a question worth pondering. Gene claims he's doing this for Finney, but is he truly being selfless? Or is there an element of guilt driving him? Is he trying to atone for something?
You know, it makes me wonder if he's maybe trying to merge his identity with Finney's. Earlier we were discussing how Gene seems lost without Finney. Maybe this is his way of staying connected to him, of keeping a part of Finney alive in his own life.
That's a fascinating interpretation. It raises the question, is it possible for two people to be so close that they lose sight of their individual selves? Can a relationship be so intense that it becomes detrimental to one's sense of identity?
These are some heavy questions. I guess we'll see how things play out as we continue reading, but it makes you think about your own relationships, doesn't it? How much of ourselves do we give up to maintain those close bonds?
Absolutely. Knowles doesn't offer easy answers. He presents us with these complex situations and forces us to grapple with the ambiguities of human relationships. He's making us think about the motivations behind our actions and potential consequences of our choices.
And speaking of choices, remember when Finney asks why Gene would even want to manage a team? Finney just can't understand it. It's like they have completely different views on what athletics represent.
That's such a key difference between them. For Finney, sports are pure joy and camaraderie. He thrives on the competition, the physicality, the sense of brotherhood. But for Gene, sports seem to represent something else entirely.
Remember how Gene talked about how it seemed like the athletes were trying to crush the life out of each other? He sees sports as something almost violent, almost a matter of life and death.
And given the backdrop of the war, that perspective doesn't seem so far-fetched, does it? It's that wartime mentality creaking in where everything feels heightened, more intense. Even something as seemingly innocent as a game becomes imbued with this sense of urgency and aggression.
It's like their world is shrinking. The lines between competition and conflict are blurring, and Gene is struggling to find his footing in this new reality.
And that's why his decision to take on this role for Finney becomes even more significant. He's choosing to engage in this world that he finds unsettling, that he sees as dangerous, is it, out of love, guilt, a need to prove himself.
We're left with so many questions about Gene's motivations. Is he being manipulated by Finney's charm and optimism? Is he trying to control their relationship in some way?
Oh, these are all valid interpretations, and that's the brilliance of Noel's writing. He doesn't hand us the answers. He allows us to draw our own conclusions, to wrestle with the complexities of these characters and their relationships.
He's inviting us to examine our own lives, our own friendships, and to ask ourselves some tough questions. Are we truly being selfless in our relationships? Are we being honest with ourselves and with those we care about? Are we making choices that ultimately serve us, or are we sacrificing our own needs and desires?
It's a lot to think about, isn't it? And I think that's the power of literature. It allows us to step outside of ourselves and explore these universal themes of friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice through the lens of these compelling characters.
We'll be back in a moment to wrap up our deep dive into Chapter 6 and to explore some of the key takeaways and lingering questions. There really is so much to think about, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's fascinating how Knowles weaves these complex themes into a seemingly simple story about friendship.
Right.
It's anything but simple, though, when you start to peel back the layers.
Yeah, that's what makes A Separate Piece such a powerful novel. It resonates on so many levels,
Right.
from the personal and individual to the broader societal and historical context.
You know, thinking about Gene's decision to play sports for Finney,
Uh-huh.
it reminds me of that line where Gene says he wants to become a part of Phineas.
Yeah,
It's almost like he's trying to erase himself to disappear into Finney's persona.
that's a very astute observation.
Yeah.
There's definitely a sense that Gene is grappling with his own identity.
Yeah.
He seems to define himself in relation to Finney, which can be both beautiful and problematic.
Right. On the one hand, it speaks to the depth of their connection,
Yeah.
that desire to be so close to someone that you become almost inseparable.
Right.
But on the other hand, it raises questions about healthy boundaries and the importance of maintaining one's individuality within a relationship.
It's that age-old struggle, isn't it? Finding that balance between connection and independence, between sacrificing for someone you love and staying true to yourself. Knowles really captures the complexities of these dynamics in a way that feels both timeless and incredibly relevant to our own lives.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder what sacrifices we make in our own relationships
Yeah,
and whether those sacrifices ultimately serve us or end up holding us back.
right.
It's almost as if Knowles is holding up a mirror to our own experiences, forcing us to confront those uncomfortable questions about our motivations and desires.
And he doesn't offer easy answers. He leaves it up to us to grapple with these ambiguities,
Right.
to draw our own conclusions about Gene's decision and what it reveals about his character, his relationship with Finney, and perhaps even his own internal struggles with guilt and responsibility.
I think that's one of the hallmarks of great literature.
Yeah.
It doesn't tell you what to think. It invites you to think for yourself.
Yeah.
It challenges your assumptions,
Right.
expands your perspective,
Yeah.
and leaves you with more questions than answers.
And those questions, those lingering uncertainties, are what keep a story alive in our minds long after we've finished reading it. They spark conversations, inspire reflection, and ultimately lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into A Separate Piece, I'm left wondering, what will Gene's decision to play sports for Finney ultimately cost him?
Yeah.
And what will it reveal about the true nature of their friendship?
Mm.
I guess we'll have to keep reading to find out.
And I, for one, can't wait to see where Knowles takes us next. There's so much more to uncover, so many layers to peel back in this rich and rewarding novel.
Well, dear listener, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into Chapter 6 of A Separate Piece.
Absolutely.
We leave you with this final thought. Think about the sacrifices you've made in your own relationships. Were they truly selfless acts, or was there something else motivating you? Food for thought. Isn't it? Until next time, happy reading.